All right, so in order to do inverse functions, you need to be able to convert functions first, okay? You're going to have to kind of change things up. So, how to find an inverse? It's not hard, but it does require specific steps. And then there is notation for it, so we'll talk about that after we're done with the steps. So number one, given a function. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you kind of like the how-to on the side. So I'm going to put like in a different color. Let's say y equal to 2x plus 1. Let's say that that's what they gave us. So on the left side is the step. On the right side, I'm going to show you the example of that step. Okay? So given a function, there we go. I'm giving you one right now. Step 2. Switch the y and x variables. Now, I mean literally switch them, as in where you see a y, you're going to write an x. Where you see an x, you're going to see a y. So x equals 2y plus 1. That's not a hard step. You just got to literally rewrite them. Okay? So that's step 2. Switch them. Step 3. Solve for y. Okay, or I guess you could say solve for the new y. So step 3. All right, if I want to solve for the new y, let me rewrite this equation here. I'm going to move the 1 first, right? Let's subtract by 1 on both sides. So I end up with x minus 1 equal to 2y. And then to solve for y, I'm going to divide everything by 2. So here's my equation. Y is equal to x minus 1 over 2. So that's step 3. That's the longest of all the steps, because that's the one where you actually have to move things, manipulate the equation and stuff like that. But you're just solving for y. And here's the last step. Label your inverse function. Okay? And you're going to label it like this. F inverse of x. Okay, that weird little power up there. The green thing is just to separate it so you can see. You're not going to put that green bracket around it. So step 4 looks like this. F inverse of x is equal to x minus 1 over 2. And that's your answer. Okay, notice all I did was I got the letter y and I rewrote it as f inverse of x. Okay, I just got the letter y and I rewrote it as f inverse of x. And that's it. This is how you find inverses. Okay, they're not meant to be like super difficult to do. Sometimes you might find some tests that say, oh, I can separate this thing here that we wrote as half x minus half. Like they divide every individual term up on top by 2. So sometimes you see answers like that. And sometimes they don't write it like that. Okay? Both of those answers are correct, just that one of them takes it an extra step. Right? They're like, oh, I got division by 2. Let me divide everything by 2. So it's half x minus half. Right? Do you have to do that? Not really. The only times you really have to do that is if you're doing a multiple choice exam or a multiple choice homework like we're doing, and if those are options, right? Maybe the option they give us looks like this. So if that's the option they give us, then that's the one we pick. If you don't see this answer right here, then you may want to look to see if they wrote it like this. Okay? So I'm just letting you know ahead of time that your solutions might just be one little fraction, or they might be multiple little things. It just depends on what they gave you. Okay? So this is it, guys. Now let me just write this down really quick. Notation. Okay, we know that f of x is a function. Anytime we write f of x, that's a function of x. That's what the f means is a function. F inverse of x. This is an inverse to f of x. Okay, so if f of x is called a function, then f inverse of x is the inverse to f of x. Now, you can have multiple inverses. If your function is h of x, you can write it h inverse of x. If it's g of x, you can write g inverse of x. Okay, you're just changing the letter in the front. So it doesn't really matter. We just use f most of the time. So let's go over some homework. So again, you guys are going to see right now, let me move over to the side. I think you have 8 problems. That's it. Okay, and based on what I see, notice some of them leave them like this, right, as one big fraction. Some of them may write them out as smaller fractions, right? So we'll see. We'll see as we do some of these things. But there's 8 problems, okay? So let's try some of these out. Let's see what happens. All right. Let's try number 2. All right. So number 2 actually kind of nice because I can have the instructions there for us just to see them for the first time. Okay. So question number 2, they want us to write the inverse of that function. Okay. So I'm going to zoom in right now. So they gave me g of x. Let me write it down. G of x equals to 2x minus 4. Now they want me to write the inverse. Now remember, step 1 is they're going to give you a function, right? So given a function, we got a function g of x. Now another way to write g of x is just to write y. I don't know if you guys remember this, but a long time ago they told you that y is equal to f of x, right? It's the same thing. Y is also equal to g of x. Y is equal to h of x. Y is equal to m of x. Okay, y is a function, so it can be any function. So I just turned it into the variable y so that it can fit our definition. Step 2 says switch the x's with the y's. So x equals 2y minus 4. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I got to solve for y. That's step 3. Solve for y. Okay, so let's add 4 to both sides. So I get x plus 4 equals to 2y. And my last step is to divide by 2. So let's divide everything by 2. So you're going to notice here is my inverse. Notice instead of y, I wrote g inverse of x, okay? Do you see that answer up there? A, B, C, or D? No, right? Like you don't see the one I just wrote. So what did they do? They simplify, they divided by 2, right? So what's x divided by 2? Well, that's just half x. And 4 divided by 2? That's a 2. Now, do you see that option? Half x plus 2. Yeah, which one is it? A. It's right there. Okay? So that's, I would say, the trickiest part is your solution. Because sometimes the answer will be written as a fraction. Sometimes it's not going to be written as one big fraction. You're going to have to break it down little by little. Okay? Remember, if you're dividing a letter by a number, so let's say you had like x over 3, most books will write it as 1/3 x, okay? So whenever you see like just a letter over a number, they'll usually write it as a fraction times that letter, okay? So x over 3, they're going to write it as a third x. So you'll notice for me, x divided by 2, they wrote it as half x, not x over 2, okay? So that's how, when I put x over 2, I just said, well, they're going to want to put half x, because there is a 1 there. So they're going to want that to be a half x. All right, so that's just something that you should know by now, but in case you hadn't seen it, there you go. All right, so we got that one. Let's see. Let's do question 4, since that one has like a big old fraction there. So that's f of x, okay? So let me just rewrite it. F of x is equal to x minus 4 over 5. Now, remember what I told you guys? You're going to want to change f of x or g of x or whatever into a y variable. So y equal to x minus 4 over 5. Now, can someone tell me what's my first step if I'm trying to, well, actually not here. Not a first step in terms, but what is my next step? Once I get my equation, what's my next thing? My step number 2. All right, switch the y and x. So I get x equals y minus 4 over 5. What's step 3? All right, I got you. Multiply by 5, yes, but the step 3 says to solve for y, which is exactly what you said, right? Multiply by 5, right? We're going to want to multiply by 5. Okay, I always put like the little x with the circle around it to tell me that's what I did. I multiplied. So 5x equals y minus 4. What's my next step? Add 4. Yeah, add 4. Because we're not multiplying the y, we're subtracting it. So we're just going to add 4. So I get 5x plus 4 equals y, but now instead of y, let's not call it y. Let's call it f inverse of x. Because they gave us f of x, I'm trying to find the inverse. Which option is that? What's my answer? A. All right, so there you go. Okay, so this is basically what you're doing for homework. Now we'll do, like I said, maybe another one here and then give you guys some time to do the rest of these. I am not going to try 6. 6 is really simple. If you're trying 6 and it's confusing you, let me know, okay? Because I think you're thinking about it too hard. It's actually very simple. You'll be done almost immediately. But let me see. 5, it looks like it can be. Let's do one of these, like 7 and 8. Okay, let's try 7. Let's try 7. So we have h of x. We want to find h inverse of x. Okay? So let me just rewrite it. H of x is equal to negative 3 minus 8/3 x. Now, like I told you, it's good to rewrite it in terms of y because we have to switch the x and the y, right? So y is equal to negative 3 minus 8/3 x. That's step 1, given your function, right? Given your equation. Step 2, switch your letters, right? So instead of y, I'm going to write x equals negative 3 minus 8/3 y. Right? Step 3, solve for y. We're going to solve for y. So first thing we're going to do is add 3 to both sides. Okay? So x plus 3 equals negative 8/3 y. Okay? And now we got to get rid of that negative 8/3. So I don't know how you guys were taught to do this. I was taught to just multiply by the reciprocal of that. Is that how you guys were taught? Or did your teacher say multiply by 3 first, then divide by negative 8 later? Or did your teacher say divide everything by negative 8/3? Anybody willing to share? Like, how did you guys learn that? How did you guys clear out a fraction in front of a variable? If you don't remember, I'll teach you my method. I think my method is the easiest method, but not that it's mine. But the way I learned it is, they said you're going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal of your fraction. In other words, by negative 3/8. The thing you want to get rid of, so that next to the y, I got a negative 8/3. I'm going to multiply by a negative 3/8. Because what's negative 8/3 times negative 3/8? What is that equal to? That's a 1, right? So that's nice. I make my fraction disappear on one side, right? So that's a 1. So all that happens over here is I have a y left over. I just got a y. On the other side, I have to distribute. Negative 3/8 times x is a negative 3/8 x minus 3/8 times 3, that's a 9/8. And remember, that y value is supposed to be the inverse. So this is an h of x, so we're going to call it h inverse of x. So what's my answer? I think someone said it. Say it louder. What's my answer for this one? B, right? So there you go. So I'll stop right there so you guys can kind of work on this.